All right, folks, we have one more series preview here before we can get on with the actual Stanley Cup playoffs itself. We have the Montreal Canadiens and the Washington Capitals today. The last series that was determined. Now, this is the number one team in the Eastern Conference versus the last team to break into the Stanley Cup playoffs in the Eastern Conference and in the entire playoffs as a whole. The Habs broke in on the second to last day of the regular season. And what's crazy is that these teams have really not faced off that many times in the playoffs. Only once did they face off before, and Montreal took that series in 7 games back in 2010. So a very long time ago. And now they're facing off once again in the first round. So you look at the Capitals' end of things. Again, as I said, they were number one in the Eastern Conference with a 51-22-9 record for 111 points. Again, they were first in the East. They had a .677 points percentage. They scored 288 goals and allowed 232. So the Capitals really kind of broke through here and really surprised a lot of people. Nobody really thought, in a sense, they were going to be this good. With all the ads that they got, I even said, I'm a little bit hesitant, to be honest with you. I was a little bit hesitant to jump on the wagon for them just because of the fact that I didn't know what to expect out of all these new guys. Sometimes you bring all these new players in, they don't mesh together. And you saw that with the Predators earlier this year, and you saw that with a couple other teams as well throughout the years. And for Washington, I just didn't know. But this is one of those instances where it really worked out good for them. What's crazy is, though, a lot of the guys that are leading the team in scoring aren't those new players. They have a 26-9-6 record at home, so a very good home record. They have a 25-13-3 record on the road. So they're very good at home. They're very good on the road. And I think that definitely bodes for a big advantage there for Washington. They score an average of 3.51 goals for per game, which is top 5 in the league. They allow an average of 2.77 goals against per game, which is, I think, bottom 5 in the league. So they do very good there in terms of scoring. And they're good in that remark, too. When you have a guy like Alex Ovechkin and literally over 5 different 30-goal scorers, you tend to do pretty good. They have a 23.3 power play percentage, which is ranked 14th, and they have an 82.7 penalty kill percentage, which is ranked 4th. So overall, they have good numbers there, very good numbers on special teams. Their PK, again, top 5. Their power play, I guess, could be better, but it's still not that terrible. I would still take it over Montreal's 100%. The first half of the year for Washington was phenomenal. 25-10-2. They were third in the NHL at that point. The second half of the year, I would like to say a lot of these losses they've had have been recently. 26-12-7, and they were second in the league now. So I think, again, they've had a good record in both halves of the year. They do have 2 more regulation losses and about 5 more overtime losses in the second half of the year. But again, that's because of the scheduling and how many games they played in the second half and all that. But I gotta say, for Washington, recently I've been a little bit scared. I think overall the whole season they've had a great, incredible, phenomenal year. But at least recently, I've been a little bit concerned about their play. And again, you guys have seen, if you guys have watched the other series previews, I have said that typically a team that is really hot heading into the playoffs will do very well in the playoffs. I mean, you see it right now, like Dallas, the team that's behind me right now, they haven't been so good recently in the playoffs or in the regular season towards the end of it. They've lost 7 in a row, and last night they lost. So again, it really all depends how you're doing heading into the playoffs. It really doesn't matter what your record is, to be honest with you. It matters how hot you are. And Exhibit A is Montreal, because their record isn't the greatest. Washington's is definitely better, but they're hot in the second half of the year, and they're hot heading into the playoffs. They have a 40-31-11 record for 91 points. They were the wild card 2 spot. They had a .555 points percentage. They scored 245 goals and allowed 265. So Montreal, in a sense, is where Washington was at last year, where they basically, they had a negative goal differential, not as bad as Washington's last year, but they had a negative goal differential. They got into the playoffs in the last couple of days of the season, and nobody really thought they were going to make it in. And it's the same sense for Montreal right here, right now. It's been an incredible year. Again, you look at the Canadiens, how they've been rebuilding the last couple of years. They were 5th worst in the league last year. 5th worst. And they're back in the playoffs this year, which I think is just insane to think. It is insane how a team can come right back from that. It's really impressive. They had a 23-12-6 record at home, and they are 17-19-5 on the road. So they're very good at the Bell Center. And I will say, the Bell Center, I want to go visit there someday. Someday in a very distant future, I want to go visit that arena because it seems like an amazing atmosphere. Even as like a Flyers fan, I would love to go visit there. So I'm a little bit worried about the Caps there going on the road to there, but for the Canadiens, with a pretty rough, it's a mediocre road record. You don't see a lot of teams who are really good on the road. You see some teams who are like exponentially good, but nobody who's like insane. Montreal's kind of like they're meh. And then you see the Caps who have a really good home record. It makes you a little bit worried. If Washington takes the first 2 games of this series, it's going to be very difficult for Montreal to come back. I get it. You could win the next 2 and tie it up, but I really don't know if Montreal will be able to get things done there. They got to win the first game. I think that's the biggest thing. You got to win the first game or 2 to really kind of make this look different for Washington. But again, we'll see. They average 2.96 goals for per game, so just under 3 goals a game on average. And then they allow a 3.18 goals against. So again, you typically see with teams who barely scrape into the playoffs, they may not have as good of stats. This is kind of an example of that. They allow more goals on average than they score, which makes sense. Again, they have a couple of guys who are 30 goal scorers, but apart from that, really nobody who is, like running away with the scoring otherwise. You have some guys who can score just consistently, but nobody that's really scoring like crazy, to be honest with you, besides Cole Caulfield. They have a 20.1 power play percentage, which is 21st. So basically, 1 in every 5 power plays, they're scoring goals. And I think that power play could be better. It 100% could be. It's in the below average end of the league. But their PK is pretty decent. 80.9. They're 9th in the league in the penalty kill, which I think definitely does mean something. Again, as I said, like in the last 7 previews we've done, sometimes a team could look very sluggish in their power play or PK heading into the playoffs, and then they could turn a completely new needle and go a different way. It really is like that, and that's why the playoffs are the best. Anything can happen in that sense. Now, in the first half of the year, Montreal was 17-17-3. They were 23rd in the NHL, so they were around where we expected, a little bit better, to be honest. And then in the second half of the year, they were 23-14-8, and they were 17th. So a really good record there for Montreal in the second half of the year. And again, as I said, like if you're hot heading into the playoffs, chances are you can go far. Exhibit A, 2021 Montreal Canadiens. They beat Toronto. They went on like an insane run that nobody thought they would go on. An unreal run. So could that happen again? I'm not doubting it. I'm not doubting that whatsoever. I have learned to not count Montreal out, and this is a prime example of that. So, yeah, I think for the Canadiens, it's been just super cool to watch this. All the young players they got coming up. They have the most draft picks in this year's draft coming up. Just some great stuff, honestly. Now, you look at the scoring for each team. We'll start off with Washington. You have Dylan Strome leading the way, 29 goals, 52 assists for 81 points. Dylan Strome's turned over a new leaf. In the years prior, he's had like really good 60-point years with Washington since leaving Chicago. And this year really took a massive step and is now 80-point guy. I think he's finally at the level we thought he was going to be at when he was drafted by the Blackhawks. It just wasn't with the Blackhawks. Alex Ovechkin, 39 years old, has 43 goals, 29 assists for 72 points this year. Again, all-time goal scorer. I think if you're Montreal, you got to watch out for him, especially on that power play. But yeah, he's a very good versatile and can score. I think that's definitely something you need to watch out for there. If you're Montreal, is Ovechkin, and you're watching out for him for the last 20 years almost. Alexei Protas, 3rd in scoring, 30 goals, 36 assists for 66 points this year as well. Protas has had a phenomenal season. A really big breakout year, and nobody really thought he was going to take that step, at least this year. And his brother, Ilya Protas, who's in the OHL right now, might even be better, and that's the crazy part. Washington has him too. Just some wild stuff. Pierre-Luc Dubois, 20 goals, 45 assists for 65 points this year as well. The Dubois, rejuvenation has been insane. I saw a stat the other week where Dubois had, 40 points with LA last year. He has 40 assists. So he had basically the same amount of assists and more than he had points with the Kings last year. So he took a really big step here alongside a really good Washington team. And then Tom Wilson, 33 goals, 31 assists, 64 points. Never count out Tom Wilson. I think there's a lot of teams in the league who would want Tom Wilson in terms of a guy who is a fighter, can be versatile, and can also score you goals too. 30 goal scorer, which is insane to think. Like 30 goal scorer, and he can play the way he does. He's somebody you got to really watch out for there. But Montreal has their own kind of guy like that, and Brendan Gallagher, just a lot less offense. Now, you look at the other guys on this roster for the Capitals. You got Connor McMichael, who has 25 goals, 56 points this year. McMichael has been great this year, really took a big step. Jacob Chychrun recently signed to a $9 million contract, 47 points, had 20 goals on the year. I definitely think that we need to see some more improvement there from Chychrun if he's getting paid $9 million, but he's still had a really good season. I'm not trying to degrade that whatsoever. He's had an insane year, and I think that should not be discredited whatsoever. And then Ryan Leonard. Now, the biggest thing with Leonard that I've seen from people is like, oh, he's not scoring. You got to watch the games to see how Leonard is playing. Leonard has been playing pretty good. He's making plays, generating chances. He just can't get on the score sheet. And that's why he only has one goal through his 8 games that he's played with Washington. I think in any other instance, he has more. He has more points. So, to be honest with you, I am not too worried about Ryan Leonard there just yet. We know what this kid can do. I know that he is going to be a very good player when he gets to that point, but overall for him, it's going to take some time. But maybe he's a guy who could really light it up in the playoffs for you. And he's going up against probably the other best prospect in the NHL, Ivan Demidov, who we'll get into here in a little bit. Now, you look at Montreal's scoring. You have Nick Suzuki leading the way, 30 goals, 59 assists, 89 points. The Nick Suzuki just rise from dominance has been insane. Last year he took his really big first step. Like, Habs fans have been projecting him to be a really good first-line center, and we haven't been seeing that at least the last couple of years, but last year he had a really good season, finally scored 30 goals last year, and, got to that point, had, I think, around 60, 65 points. This year takes an even bigger step, has almost 90 points. Just an unreal year from a guy like Suzuki, who has really proven that he is a number one center. Cole Caulfield, 37 goals, 33 assists, 70 points. I really wish Caulfield could get to that 40-goal plateau. I think in a year where Montreal could be better next year, I would take Caulfield to score 40 goals. So I really like how Caulfield's been this year. Lane Hutson, the head fake king, as other fans like to call him. Sorry, Montreal fans, I shouldn't say that. 6 goals, 60 assists for 66 points. Hudson's been great. I mean, again, you can criticize the defensive game all you want. I understand that. But you got to look at his offensive plays. He's making plays out there. He's dangling with the puck. Seeing a kid this young and this creative with the puck is very unlikely, and he could be, again, he has shades of Kyle McCarr. And I think, again, I have to wait till next year before I'm jumping on that wagon of Hudson's like McCarr. Because, again, a guy can do this in his rookie year and then struggle next year. So I'm waiting a little bit before I jump on that wagon, but this kid looks really talented. And I think, again, if it weren't for him, I don't think that Montreal blue line is what it is. I mean, again, that he really kind of meshes that blue line all together and combines it. He's unreal in that kind of way. Uri Slafkovsky, 18 goals, 33 assists, 51 points. I think this is one of the negatives for Montreal. Slafkovsky had a decent year, but I feel like I need to see more out of him because he's a first overall pick and just hasn't been there. He's a raw prospect. I feel like it's going to take some more time before him to develop, but you look at guys like Logan Cooley and even Shane Wright this past year. I don't really like how Slafkovsky's been. That's one of the things that I'm a little bit worried about in terms of Montreal, just because of the fact that I don't think he's going to be what he was projected to be. I don't think he's what he was going to be projected to be. But we'll have to see again. There's still a lot of time left in that. He's still very young. The draft was only 3 years ago, but right now it isn't looking that good, at least in my opinion. And then Brendan Gallagher, 21 goals, 17 assists, 38 points this year with Montreal as well. Gallagher, kind of like Tom Wilson, just less offense, can really get under your skin and things like that. And the story with his mother is very sad, but seeing how they've got on this run and he scored some pretty good goals, it just makes for a wonderful kind of personal story there for Brendan Gallagher. But overall, I think this is a very solid team even still, and I think Capitals fans should not doubt this team. Other guys who I think are notable, Jake Evans had 36 points this year, I think was signed to a contract. It's been a very good third, fourth line player. Patrick Laine, 20 goals. You lock him up on the power play, that guy can score. And then Christian Dvorak, 33 points there as well, who was a very intriguing player. And then Ivan Demidov. Now, I mentioned Leonard is going up against one of the better prospects in the league earlier in the video. This is it. Demidov, I think, is probably arguably the best prospect in the league right now. He still is a prospect technically. He's only played 2 games. And I think that he is somebody that you need to really watch out for if you're Washington, because this kid can create some plays. We saw how he was in the KHL with literally no ice time. I can only imagine what he's going to be like next year with Montreal. I can only imagine what he's going to be like. In terms of the goaltending then, you have Logan Thompson on one side for the Capitals, 31-6-6, a 2.49 goals against and a .910. Here's the thing though, Thompson might not be playing. I'm not 100% sure of his availability, at least at the time of this recording. I'm not 100% sure, so if you guys have any more comments on that, you can comment them down below. But Thompson, not 100% sure if he's playing, but if he is, Montreal better watch out. This guy's a phenomenal goaltender. And then Charlie Lindgren, he can show up when it matters. I think his numbers are really bad just because there's been some games where the Caps just play terrible in front of him. 20, 14, and 3, a 2.73 and a .896. Lindgren has been phenomenal this season. There's really no doubt about it. He's been great this year. Just his numbers don't really say that because, again, as I said, like the Caps, I feel like in some games just don't play good in front of him. And he kind of gets left out to dry sometimes. And he's not like a guy like Logan Thompson you could leave out for dry. You just can't. On the other end, Sam Montembeault, 31, 24, and 7 with a 2.82 and a .902. Montembeault can make some good saves, can do some good stuff. I'm a little bit intrigued how that's going to look with him, but I think he still can be very good. Again, I'm not doubting that whatsoever. And then Jacob Dobge, 7, 4, and 3, a 2.74 and a .909. Dobge has been unreal. I think, again, you could see a tandem next year of Dobge and Fowler, but I think Montembeault stays for a little bit longer. But overall, I am a fan of this Canadiens team and this Washington team, and I really don't know the direction of where it's going to go. I think if Logan Thompson isn't there, I got to go Capitals in 7. If Thompson is there, maybe I shorten the series a little bit, but I think either way, Washington, at least the expectation, they should take this. But again, as I said, Montreal has been hot heading into the playoffs, and that does matter. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below on this series preview. That being said, all of the series previews are out here now on the channel. So if you are watching this, that means all the rest of them are out on the channel, so you can go watch them. Tomorrow, we're going to start with our 2025 reviews with the San Jose Sharks, and then prospect previews and other good stuff that is corresponding with the playoff content. So regardless, that is it for me. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.